My name is Rachel Morrison, and I'm sitting in a mahogany-paneled conference room watching my older brother Marcus perform what he thinks is his greatest triumph. He's got our mother on one side, our Aunt Patricia on the other, and 12 other family members arranged around the table like he's holding court. He's wearing a custom suit that cost more than most people's monthly salary, and his wife Vanessa keeps touching his arm like he's already royalty. I'm in the corner chair, the one near the door, where I've always been placed at family gatherings. If you've ever been the family scapegoat while watching the golden child take credit for everything, hit that like button and subscribe right now. You're not going to want to miss what happened next. 4 years ago, when Grandpa Thomas was diagnosed with stage 3 lung cancer, everything changed in our family. Not because we rallied together. That would have required us to actually function like a healthy family. No, everything changed because suddenly there was an estate worth fighting over. 10 rental properties scattered across 3 counties. Commercial buildings with long-term corporate leases. A portfolio that generated $45,000 in monthly rental income, clockwork regular, for the past 32 years. Marcus saw dollar signs. I saw Grandpa slowly dying and pretending everything was fine. Our family had always worked a certain way. Marcus was the responsible one, the successful one, the one Mom bragged about at church. He had the finance degree from state, the corporate job, the beautiful wife, the right opinions about everything. I was the artsy one. The impractical one. The one who dropped out of business school to pursue photography. The disappointment. Mom introduced me at family events as Rachel, who's still figuring things out, even when I was 32 years old. Marcus made it crystal clear how things would go. When Grandpa passes, he told me over coffee 2 weeks after the diagnosis, someone's going to need to manage the estate properly. Someone with actual business experience. Grandpa's not even gone yet, I said. I'm being realistic. You're being emotional. This is why you'll never succeed at anything, Rachel. I didn't argue. I learned years ago that arguing with Marcus was like arguing with a brick wall, except the brick wall eventually stopped talking. Instead, I visited Grandpa 3 times a week, then 5 times a week, then basically every day as the cancer progressed. We'd sit in his small house, the one property he'd kept for himself, refusing to rent it out, and he'd tell me stories about building his empire. Started with 1 duplex in 1973, he'd say, his voice getting weaker each month. Your grandma and I, we scraped together the down payment. I did all the repairs myself. Learned plumbing from a library book, if you can believe it. I believe it, I said, adjusting his oxygen cannula. You never did anything halfway. Marcus came by yesterday, Grandpa said one afternoon in March, 6 months after diagnosis. Spent 40 minutes talking about property management software and tax optimization strategies. That sounds like Marcus. Didn't ask me how I was feeling. Didn't ask about the treatments. Grandpa's eyes, still sharp despite everything, fixed on me. You know what he did ask? What? If I'd updated my will recently. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Grandpa. I'm not a fool, Rachel. I see exactly what's happening. He reached for my hand, his grip surprisingly strong. You know why I never taught Marcus about the properties? Why I never brought him into the business? Because he never asked? Because he doesn't care about the properties. He cares about the money they generate. There's a difference. Grandpa paused to catch his breath. You, on the other hand. You asked me about Mrs. Chin in 4B when her husband died. You remembered that the Johnsons in the commercial building were celebrating 20 years. You see people, not dollar signs. I just pay attention. Exactly. Grandpa squeezed my hand. I need to show you something. That's when everything changed. Grandpa walked me through, had me will him through, every single property. 10 buildings, 42 rental units, 3 commercial spaces. He introduced me to every tenant, showed me where he kept the spare keys, explained which contractors were reliable and which ones would rob you blind. This furnace is original to 1987, he'd say. Needs replacing next year, probably $15,000. This roof's got another 5 years if we're lucky. Mrs. Rodriguez in 2A, she's never late on rent, but her daughter's going through a divorce. Might need some grace in a few months. I took notes. Hundreds of pages of notes. I photographed everything, learned the systems, memorized the details. Marcus never knew. Nobody knew. They thought I was just visiting my dying grandfather, being the emotional, impractical one who couldn't face reality. Rachel, Grandpa said one night for months before he died. I'm going to do something and I need you to trust me. Of course. The properties. I'm transferring them. All of them. My heart stopped. To Marcus. To you. I couldn't breathe. Grandpa, I can't. The family will. The family will do exactly what they're already doing. Your mother will side with Marcus because she always has. Your aunt will demand her cut because she thinks she's entitled. And Marcus will threaten lawyers and throw tantrums. Grandpa's expression was calm, resolute. But the properties will be yours. Legally, completely, irrevocably yours. Why? Because you're the only one who'll do right by them. The only one who sees them as homes for people, not just income streams. He pulled out a folder thick with documents. My lawyer's been working on this for 2 months. Everything's ready. We just need your signature. I signed. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the pen, but I signed. The transfers went through quietly. Grandpa's lawyer, Mitchell Chin, was a master of discretion. Property records were updated, deeds were filed, everything was done properly and legally. The monthly rent, all $45,000 of it, started depositing into an LLC account in my name. And I didn't tell anyone. Not because I was hiding it exactly, because I was protecting it. And because, honestly, I wanted to see what would happen. I wanted to see if my family would love me without thinking I was the broke, irresponsible failure. Spoiler alert, they didn't. Grandpa died on a Tuesday in November. Peaceful at home with me holding his hand. His last words were, "You're going to be just fine, kiddo. Better than fine." The funeral was a circus. Marcus gave a eulogy about Grandpa's business acumen and legacy. Mom cried dramatically. Aunt Patricia complained about the flower arrangements. I sat in the back and said nothing. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from tonight. 3 days after the funeral, Marcus called the family meeting. Estate matters need to be settled, he announced. We're meeting at Mitchell Chen's office next Thursday. Everyone needs to be there. I showed up in jeans and a sweater. Marcus was in his power suit. Mom wore her funeral pearls. Aunt Patricia brought her husband Gerald, who immediately started talking about how he'd always helped Grandpa with business advice. That was a lie. Gerald was a dentist who'd never managed anything more complex than his own practice. Mitchell Chen's conference room was designed to intimidate. Floor-to-ceiling windows, leather chairs, law books lining the walls. Mitchell himself was 73, sharp as a tack, and had known Grandpa for 40 years. Marcus didn't wait for Mitchell to start the meeting. He stood up like he was chairing a board meeting, pulled out a leather portfolio and smiled at everyone. "I want to thank you all for coming," he said, like he'd organized this instead of just demanding everyone show up. "Grandpa Thomas left behind a significant estate, and it's important we handle this properly." "Marcus," Mitchell said quietly, "perhaps we should." "I've spent the last 3 days reviewing the properties," Marcus continued, ignoring him completely. 10 buildings, 42 units, stable cash flow. Grandpa built something remarkable, and it's our responsibility to honor that legacy. Mom nodded approvingly. Aunt Patricia whispered something to Gerald. I sat perfectly still. "Now, I know Grandpa never officially named an executor," Marcus said, which was interesting because Mitchell's expression said that wasn't true at all. "But I think we can all agree that this estate needs professional management. Someone with actual business experience." "Marcus has always been so responsible," Mom chimed in. "Ever since he was a boy." "I've already spoken with several property management firms," Marcus continued. "And I've had my accountant run preliminary numbers on tax optimization strategies. Conservative estimates put the annual net income around $400,000, assuming we raise rents to market rate and cut unnecessary maintenance costs." I watched him. His confidence was absolute. He genuinely believed this was already his. "Now, obviously, there will be distributions to family members," Marcus said generously. "Mom, Aunt Patricia, even Rachel will receive something. But the responsible thing, the thing Grandpa would have wanted, is for the properties to be managed by someone who won't run them into the ground." Vanessa, his wife, actually started a slow clap. I'm not kidding. She started clapping like he'd just delivered the Gettysburg Address. "So here's what I'm proposing," Marcus said, pulling out a document. "I'll take ownership of the portfolio. In exchange, I'll provide annual distributions to family members. Mom gets $20,000 a year. Aunt Patricia gets 15. Rachel gets 10, assuming she demonstrates financial responsibility. 10,000. From an estate generating 45,000 monthly. Marcus, I said quietly. It was the first word I'd spoken. He looked at me like he'd forgotten I was there. Rachel, I know this seems complicated, but trust me. This is what's best for everyone. I'm sure you believe that. I've already had my lawyer draft the paperwork, Marcus said, sliding the document toward Mitchell. It's all very straightforward. We can probably have everything finalized by next week. Mitchell didn't touch the document. He was looking at me. Mom jumped in. Rachel, honey, this really is for the best. You're not equipped to handle something this complex. Marcus has the experience, the education. The responsible sibling gets it all, Marcus announced, standing up straighter. All 10 properties generating $45,000 in monthly rent. This is about legacy. This is about competence. That's when Mitchell Chin stood up. Interesting, he said, his voice carrying that particular tone lawyers use when they're about to destroy someone's world. Because the deeds were transferred 4 years ago. The room went silent. Marcus blinked. What? The properties, Mitchell said, opening his own folder. They were transferred out of Thomas Morrison's name in March 2021. All 10 buildings, all 42 units, all 3 commercial spaces. Mom's face went pale. That's not possible. Dad wouldn't. I handled the transfers myself, Mitchell continued. All properly filed with the county recorder's office. All legal, all documented. Marcus was shaking his head. No, that's not, I would have known. I've been managing the maintenance, I've been filing the expense reports. That's actually another interesting point, Mitchell said. Those maintenance receipts you filed with the estate? The ones claiming you've been managing the properties and spending your own money on repairs. Hit that subscribe button if you've ever had to set boundaries with toxic family, because what happened next changed everything. Marcus had gone very still. What about them? They're fraudulent. Mitchell pulled out another folder, this one much thicker. Every single receipt, every invoice, every claim of expenditure, all fabricated. And we can prove it. That's ridiculous, Marcus said, but his voice had changed. The confidence was cracking. I have documentation. You have fabricated documentation, Mitchell corrected. For example, this receipt claiming you spent $12,000 on a new HVAC system for the property on Maple Street. The actual HVAC company has no record of that work. Because it never happened. I must have used a different. Or this one. $8,000 for roof repairs on the commercial building downtown. Except the roofing company you supposedly used went out of business in 2019. 2 years before this receipt is dated. Aunt Patricia stood up. Mitchell, surely there's some misunderstanding. There's no misunderstanding. Over the past 4 years, Marcus has filed approximately $173,000 in fraudulent maintenance claims against the estate. Mom actually gasped. Marcus, tell him that's not true. But Marcus wasn't looking at Mom. He was looking at me. And I saw the exact moment he realized. He breathed. He knew. You've known the whole time. I met his eyes. I didn't know about the fake receipts. That's a nice touch though. Really creative. The properties are yours? Vanessa said, her voice climbing. Since when? Since March 2021, I said calmly. Grandpa transferred them to me 4 months before he died. Every single one. That's not legal, Marcus said desperately. He wasn't in his right mind, he was dying, it was undue influence. He was completely competent, Mitchell said. I have medical documentation from 3 separate doctors confirming his mental capacity at the time of transfer. I also have video recording of the signing, which was witnessed by 2 independent parties who had no relationship to the family. I pulled out my own folder. I'd been holding it in my lap the whole time. But here's the thing, Marcus, I said, sliding it across the table. While you were filing fake maintenance receipts, I was actually maintaining the properties. With my own money. Money from the rental income that's been legally mine for 4 years. The folder hit the table with a satisfying thud. Marcus opened it with shaking hands. That's every repair, every upgrade, every legitimate expense, I said. The furnace at the Maple Street property, that's page 12. I replaced it last year for $16,000. The commercial building roof? Page 37. 22,000 completed 6 months ago. Mrs. Rodriguez's broken water heater? Page 53. Emergency repair 24-hour turnaround, because she has 3 kids and it was January. Marcus was flipping through the pages, his face getting redder with each one. All documented. All legitimate. All paid for from the rental income that you thought should be yours. I leaned back in my chair. You want to talk about responsible management, Marcus? I've been responsible. You've been filing fake receipts and planning to evict tenants to raise rents. You had no right, Mom said, her voice shaking. Rachel, your grandfather wouldn't have wanted this. Family doesn't. Family doesn't what, Mom? I turned to her. Family doesn't lie? Family doesn't fabricate documents? Family doesn't try to steal from each other. You manipulated a dying man, Aunt Patricia accused. I visited a dying man, I corrected. 3 times a week, then 5 times a week, then every single day. I held his hand through chemo. I learned about his tenants, his properties, his life's work. Where were you, Aunt Patricia? Where were you, Marcus? This isn't fair, Vanessa said. Marcus has been planning. He left his job. He was going to manage these properties full-time. He left his job. I looked at Marcus. When? His jaw clenched. 2 weeks ago. I gave notice after the funeral. So you quit your 6-figure job to manage properties you didn't own and hadn't bothered to verify were actually part of Grandpa's estate? I shook my head. That's not business acumen, Marcus. That's stupidity. You smug little, Marcus started. Mitchell cleared his throat. There's more. Marcus's head snapped toward him. More. The fraudulent receipts constitute attempted theft by deception. Given the amounts involved, over $170,000, we're talking felony charges. Mitchell's expression was professionally neutral, but I could see the satisfaction underneath. He'd loved Grandpa. I'm obligated to report this to the authorities. You can't be serious, Mom said. Mitchell, we've known each other for years. Which is exactly why I take this so seriously, Linda. Thomas was my friend. What Marcus attempted to do here isn't just unethical. It's criminal. Marcus stood up so fast his chair fell over. I'm not going to sit here and be accused of crimes by my own sister. Then leave, I said simply. You're not needed here anyway. You never were. That's when the door opened. 2 people walked in. A man and a woman, both in business suits, both carrying badges. Marcus Morrison, the woman said. Marcus went white. Who are you? Detective Sarah Chin, Fraud Division. This is Detective James Rodriguez. She looked at Mitchell. We got your call. Call? Mom's voice was barely a whisper. I contacted the authorities this morning, Mitchell said. After reviewing the fraudulent documentation Mr. Morrison attempted to submit as legitimate estate claims. Detective Chin approached Marcus. Mr. Morrison, we need you to come with us. We have some questions about financial documents you've filed over the past 4 years. This is insane, Vanessa said, grabbing Marcus's arm. You can't just arrest him. We're not arresting him, Detective Rodriguez said. Yet. But we do need to talk about approximately $173,000 in fraudulent claims. Marcus looked at me. Actually looked at me maybe for the first time in 30 years. You're destroying the family. No, I said quietly. I'm just declining to be destroyed by it. He tried to say something else, but Detective Chin was already guiding him toward the door. Vanessa followed, her heels clicking frantically on the marble floor. The door closed. The silence that followed was deafening. Mom was crying. Real tears this time, not the performative ones from the funeral. How could you do this, Rachel? To your own brother. How could I? I stared at her. Mom, he tried to steal properties that Grandpa legally gave to me. He fabricated nearly $200,000 in fake expenses. He was planning to raise rents on families who've lived in those buildings for decades. And you're asking how I could do this? He's your brother, she whispered. And yet he never treated me like his sister. I stood up. I'm done begging for a place at this table. I'm done being the family disappointment while watching Marcus get praised for basic human functioning. I'm done. Aunt Patricia found her voice. You'll regret this. When you need family. I have family, I interrupted. I have Mrs. Chin in 4B who sends me homemade dumplings every Chinese New Year. I have the Johnsons who invited me to their daughter's wedding. I have 42 households who actually appreciate what I do for them. I looked at her. What I don't have is relatives who value me. And honestly, I'm okay with that. I picked up my folder and walked toward the door. Rachel, Mitchell called. You'll need these. He handed me another folder. Updated documentation for all 10 properties. Everything's in order. The LLC is generating excellent returns, by the way. Your grandfather would be proud. Thank you, Mitchell. One more thing. He lowered his voice. The fake receipts. I noticed them about a year ago. I've been building the case ever since. Your grandfather asked me to watch out for you. This is me keeping that promise. I hugged him. Actually hugged him right there in the conference room while my mother sobbed and my aunt glared. Then I left. The fallout was immediate and spectacular. Marcus was charged with attempted fraud and theft by deception within 48 hours. The local newspaper ran a story. Finance professional charged in elaborate estate fraud scheme. His LinkedIn profile disappeared. His wife's Facebook went private. Mom called me 17 times that first day. I didn't answer. She left voicemails ranging from pleading to angry to desperate. You're tearing this family apart, she said in message number 12. Your grandfather would be ashamed. I finally called her back on day 3. Grandpa knew exactly what he was doing, I said. He knew Marcus would try exactly this. That's why he transferred everything 4 years early. That's why he had everything documented. He was protecting his legacy from people who saw it as a cash grab. You poisoned him against his own family, she accused. No, Mom. I visited him while he was dying. There's a difference. I took a breath. You're welcome to be part of my life. But only if you can accept that I'm not the failure you've always treated me as. Otherwise, we're done. She hung up on me. She hasn't called back. Aunt Patricia tried a different approach. She showed up at my apartment with a casserole and an apology that lasted exactly as long as it took her to ask for $20,000. Just to help with Gerald's practice expenses, she said. No, I said. But we're family. Then act like it. Start with not demanding money from the niece you've ignored for 30 years. She left without the casserole. Marcus's case went to court 6 months later. The evidence was overwhelming. Fake receipts, fabricated invoices, forged signatures. His lawyer tried to argue emotional distress, grief-induced poor judgment, financial pressure from unemployment. The judge wasn't impressed. 18 months in minimum security, 5 years probation, full restitution to the estate. The sentence was delivered on a Tuesday. I wasn't there, but Mitchell called me immediately after. Justice, he said simply. Vanessa filed for divorce before Marcus even started his sentence. She'd already moved in with her personal trainer. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The properties thrived. I replaced 2 more roofs, upgraded 3 kitchens and installed energy-efficient windows in the commercial building. Rent stayed stable. No increases unless absolutely necessary and always with 6 months' notice. Mrs. Rodriguez in 2A sent me a Christmas card. Thank you for understanding when Sarah moved back home, she wrote. Most landlords would have evicted us. You gave us grace. That card is framed in my office. A year after the estate meeting, I got a call from an unknown number. Rachel Morrison? A professional voice, female, confident. Speaking. My name is Jennifer Wu. I run a property management firm downtown. I've been hearing about how you've been managing the Morrison properties and I'm impressed. Thank you. I'm expanding my business. I need someone who sees properties as homes, not just assets. Someone who understands tenant relationships matter more than maximum profit extraction. She paused. I'd like to offer you a consulting position. 20 properties to start, $60,000 retainer, profit sharing on renovations you oversee. I took the job. 2 years after that, I bought 3 more properties. Fixed them up, rented them to families who needed a break, managed them the way Grandpa taught me. The business grew. The consulting expanded. Last month, Jennifer offered me a full partnership in her firm. You've changed how we operate, she said. Tenant retention is up 40%. Referrals are through the roof. You were right. Treating people like people instead of income streams actually makes better business sense. If you've ever had to walk away to save yourself, tell me your story in the comments. What would you have done? 3 years after the estate meeting, I was having coffee at the property on Maple Street. I'd converted the ground floor unit into a community room for tenants, when someone knocked on the window. It was Mom. She looked older. Tired. She was carrying a single shopping bag and wearing a coat I recognized from 5 years ago. I unlocked the door. "I don't want money," she said immediately. "Okay. Marcus gets out in 6 months. Parole hearing next week." "I know." She looked around the community room. New paint, comfortable furniture, a bulletin board covered in tenant announcements and kids' artwork. "This is nice. The tenants like it. Mrs. Chin teaches Tai Chi here on Sundays. The Johnson kids do homework here after school." Mom sat down without being invited. "I was wrong. I waited. About Marcus. About you. About everything." Her hands twisted in her lap. "I thought success looked like his finance degree and corporate job. I didn't see that you were building something real. Something that actually helps people." "Why are you here, Mom?" "Because I miss my daughter. Not the daughter I wanted you to be. The daughter you actually are." She looked up. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I enabled Marcus, dismissed you, treated you like you were less. I can't change that. But I'm asking anyway." I sat down across from her. "What happened to standing by Marcus no matter what?" "I visited him in prison last month. Do you know what he said?" She laughed bitterly. "He blamed me. Said I pressured him, created unrealistic expectations, made him feel like he had to be perfect. Blamed everyone but himself. Sounds like Marcus." "It does, doesn't it?" Mom wiped her eyes. "I spent 3 years defending him, alienating everyone, insisting you were the problem. And he blamed me the first chance he got. What do you want from me, Mom?" "Nothing. Everything. A chance to know my daughter. To apologize properly, not just with words but with time and effort and actually showing up." She met my eyes. "I know that might not be possible. I know I burned that bridge. But I had to try. I thought about Grandpa. About his lessons on grace and boundaries. About Mrs. Rodriguez and second chances. Tuesday mornings," I said. "Coffee here 9 a.m. We talk. Actually talk, not perform for each other. That's it. That's the start. You show up consistently for 6 months, we'll talk about more. You miss more than 2 without legitimate excuse, we're done. And you never ever ask me to reconcile with Marcus or minimize what he did. Deal." She started crying again. "Thank you, Rachel. Thank you for showing up." She did. Every Tuesday for 6 months, then a year, then 2 years. We rebuilt something. Not what we had, that was broken from the start. Something new. Something honest. Marcus got out of prison and immediately tried to contact me through social media. His message was 3 paragraphs of self-justification ending with a request for $50,000 to get back on his feet. I blocked him and didn't think about it again. Last month, Grandpa's birthday, I visited his grave. Brought his favorite whiskey and poured a little on the ground. "The properties are doing great," I told him. 42 families safe and stable. 3 more buildings added. Community programs in 4 locations. Mrs. Chin says hi. The wind rustled through the trees. Marcus is out. I haven't seen him. Don't plan to. Mom and I are talking. Carefully but talking. I smiled. "You were right, Grandpa. About all of it. The properties aren't just buildings. They're homes. And that matters more than maximum profit." I could almost hear him agreeing. "You taught me to see people. To value stability over extraction. To build something that lasts." I stood up. "I'm doing that. Every day. For 42 families and counting." The sun was setting, casting everything in gold. "Thank you," I said. "For trusting me with your legacy. For seeing who I actually was instead of who everyone wanted me to be. For giving me the tools to build something real." I walked back to my car, a practical Honda because some things don't change, and drove to the Maple Street property. Tuesday Tai Chi was just ending and Mrs. Chin waved at me through the window. 42 families. A growing business. A relationship with my mother that was finally honest. A life built on the foundation Grandpa created, expanded with lessons he taught me. Marcus wanted the empire handed to him. I earned it, building by building, family by family, choice by choice. paper beats promises every single time. And sometimes, the family scapegoat turns out to be the only one who actually understood what family means.